concept. The second concept he has is the hustler's eye. And they also call this concept intense realism, which is really just a concept that talks about being able to see things for what they really are, being able to see certain situations for what they really are, and being able to see people for who they really are. 50 Cent, we all know who 50 Cent is. He came from the streets. His background was he was selling dope in the south side of Queens. And while he was in that situation, he had to really have this sharp sense of this very observant attitude. He had to be very observant of certain situations and really observe certain people in terms of what their attitudes may be, who they really are, and being able to observe certain situations in terms of what that situation really is, why is it happening, how is it happening, and being able to just be aware of certain things that were going on in the streets in order for him to survive the situation that he was in at that time. So he had to recognize if there are any opportunities that may be around the corner, he needs to take advantage of that. If there are any people out trying to rob him or take advantage of him, he had to be aware of that. If there are any cops that may be, watching him, or if there are any body who, if there was anybody who was plotting to kill him or rob him or whatever, he had to be aware of those certain things in order to survive the environment that he was in. And he also had to be aware of himself. He had to be aware of his own limitations. He had to be aware of his own mistakes that he may have made, right? He had to be aware of himself as well as being aware of the environment that he was in order to survive the environment that he was in. And then once he moved into the music business, he took that same attitude and that same mentality, that same hustler's eye, and applied it to the music business. He was aware of the fact that the music business, nothing is guaranteed. He had to be aware of the fact that the people at the record labels, they don't give a fuck about you if you're not selling records, right? And he understood that being that the music business, nothing is guaranteed, he had to go off and pursue other things in order for him to stay afloat in that industry. That's why you saw him with the movies that he had and the vitamin water and the clothing and the G Unit records. He pursued all these different business ventures because he understood the fact that there's nothing guaranteed in the music business and the record labels don't give a fuck about you unless you are selling records. So being that he understood how the people really were and he understood how the business really was, he used that to his advantage in order to go off and pursue other things. And that in turn helped him stay afloat in the music industry and actually helped him become very successful as well, right? Because he had that hustler's eye. He was able to see things for what they were, and he was able to see people for who they were. He knew his own limitations, he knew his own strengths, he knew his own weaknesses, and he knew, you know, himself as well as his environment. All right. So that is the hustler's eye, or they also call it intense realism, being able to see things for what they really are. All right. So those are the two concepts.